Welcome, one and all. I am Lex, and this is Various Fields.
I'm Hazen Fields II.
And I'm Trey. What's up, all?
Hey, everybody.
And guys, I bet you didn't notice, but we're on a podcast.
Surprise.
Really?
I had no idea.
And you know what we do on this podcast?
Apparently
No.
break the fourth wall.
That too, but we also talk.
Very
But we do talk. We talk, and we talk a lot. And we talk about all things. And very recently, we've been talking about a lot of political things. And that's one of the cool things about where we live. We can talk about a lot of political things.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's great.
But also, I think there's a certain level of responsibility that comes with talking about things. Does that make sense?
No,
yeah,
makes perfect sense.
Absolutely sense. Yeah.
And I feel more recently that people don't care about what they talk about anymore. Does that make sense?
It's like as if we had a leader at one point in time that almost debunked a great deal of facts.
Yeah, it's like there's a
Right.
guy that is kind of always out there talking about, I don't know, eating dogs and cats.
How
And it's
come,
like,
how come I want an orange right now? I don't know why I want an
Or
orange.
I feel maybe like a Cheeto bag or
Yeah,
something like
something
that.
like that.
and
All
there's
right.
something that's right about that. I'm like, I don't know where I heard this from, but
Yeah,
someone's
anyway.
talking about someone eating dogs and cats and pets. I'm like, that can't be right. And also,
be right.
it sounded kind of dangerous for
sounded
someone
agree.
of that power to say
Very-
something.
It's almost as if
Very
he was
bad.
trying to stir up a bias just to get people to like him more by revealing a worse side of the world. that
But
wasn't
what
really there.
happened, he was making people hate other people they didn't know more.
But you know what? He has free speech. Isn't he allowed to do that? And that's our prompt, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, very good.
Yeah, isn't that pretty good?
That was pretty
Bravo,
good.
bravo.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just like I'm around rhetoric is kind of where I'm at. I felt like I've said this prior to Donald Trump being elected. The first, like when he was, I'm hitting things. When Donald Trump was elected, something that I thought was very obvious is that his rhetoric was very dangerous.
Wait a minute. Did you say he was elected?
Elected when he was president.
Oh, when he was president.
Yeah, when he was president.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no.
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 Okay.
Kamala,
Come on.
Kamala,
Kamala. Let's go on.
Are you scared?
Yeah, I got scared.
That was a mantra. We're all calm down.
Remember, we're
good, good.
speaking from the future or the
From
past.
the past.
We're speaking from the past.
Back to the Future in the
To the
Past,
Future.
Part 2, Electric
Okay.
Boogaloo.
We're going. All right, go ahead.
I always thought his rhetoric was the most dangerous thing because he seemed to speak so, I guess, maybe flagrantly is the word.
No, it's the exact word.
Oh, cool. But, sorry, that's not dismissive. I'm just glad I got it.
No, it was like word of the day,
Flagrantly.
flagrantly.
But it's like one of those things where I think I want our leaders, or I think, oh, God, I'm such a nerd. Power and responsibility. Again,
No, it's okay.
I know, but it's like to me,
Just say it. Say it the
with
real way.
great power comes great responsibility, and
Thank you, Ben Parker.
especially in your rhetoric, especially in the way that you talk, and the special way that you communicate. And even if you're not behind a podium, even if you're not on a podcast, you should treat your words with respect, because it's also treating yourself with respect. So just because we have free speech, we also should treat that ability with free speech with respect. So this way, we're not just saying things blatantly everywhere all the time and then making things potentially dangerous. I'm kind of losing it as I'm talking.
No, you're
You
fine.
get it, right?
All right. Well, even from a biblical perspective, there's a scripture that suggests that the power of life and death is in the tongue. What we speak, we manifest. You can literally do more harm with your tongue than with a gun, I would suggest. Because no. I mean, listen, I'm saying, if you, and this is in a way, if you unalive, I'm using unalive because they do that.
Yeah, that's good.
If you unalive someone with a pew pew, this is all my TikTok thing. That's what they tell you now.
So
They say, if you unalive someone with a pew pew, that person is gone for good. But if you utilize your tongue and you unalive someone's spiritual hope or their ability to want to grow or do other things, you can actually, by your words alone, make someone feel doubt, feel unwanted, feel hurt.
Absolutely.
So that, to me, there's a level of danger and hurt that exists there.
I agree. I was going to say the pen is mightier than the sword, but I don't know why I'm just in a very punny mood today. I wanted to say that the soapbox is not the cleanest thing to ever stand on.
Wow, that's
Right.
good, actually.
Oh, that's very good.
So my thing is, like, when it comes down to what you're saying, like, I understand everyone has the right to say whatever they want to say, right? Free speech and all is all fantastic, right? But it's how you deliver a message, right? And what that message is going to do for you in the future or anything like that. It's very important to understand who you're speaking to. And I believe you call him what, 45?
45 the felon.
Yeah,
actually.
45. Yeah,
45 the felon.
45 the felon. My apologies. All right. Yeah, he himself, right, does not stand on his words. He only stands on the soapbox, and that itself is not a clean base to stand on.
Yeah.
Very good.
right.
No, I think like the reason why, or I'll use an example that I keep giving, is like you can say anything that you want. Like that is something that if you have the ability to speak and you can say anything you want, you're fine. But if you don't hold yourself accountable for the things you say, if you say something mean and someone calls you a jerk, that's not someone like stepping on your free speech. You said something that made you a jerk, but also that's the thing. Don't say things that shape your character in a way that you don't
Right.
shape.
Precisely that.
You know?
Right. And also, we got to be clear. People are really mistaking where free speech exists.
Yes.
When people open up a platform like YouTube and Twitter, TikTok, they are not required to give you that free speech that the Constitution offers the American government, those who are citizens in America. You can't, when these various platforms stop you from using words, and so we have to change words like unalive and pew-pew, it's to create a discourse that doesn't harm people in a lot of cases.
Correct.
And there may be some restrictions, but those restrictions are based upon the platform and those who own it and those who created it. So do not conflate Facebook with the United States of America.
Right.
You do have free speech in the United States of America, but your free speech is limited on these platforms. So stop saying that, you deserve free speech on these platforms.
Right, because when people are like, "Oh, I'm going to be silenced," or "I won't be silenced," or it's like, but like you have all these platforms you can be on certain spaces, and like again, there's certain things where it's more like the company organization can talk about what they want or allow on their platform versus like if you just go outside and talk about, no one's going to stop you.
If you limit your dialogue to just conjecture and rumor, right, no one's going to have to believe you over time. Like we already know about the fable of the boy who cries wolf, right? But for some reason, we've elected the boy. He's still out here.
Yeah.
But it's just a dangerous space because everyone wants to say what they want to say, right? And I understand that people that listen to those that want to say what they want to say feel like they don't have a voice, right? Or feel like they have also equally have been silenced, right? And oftentimes utilized 45 the felon as their speaking box, saying like, he has all the right points. He's for the working man. He's for the disenfranchised. He's for the ones who have not, like I've been shut up plenty of times at my work. And every single time he's opened up his mouth, it has always been a juxtaposition from the last time he's opened up his mouth. So I always wanted to be careful with the last episodes that we've put out about our media literacy. Also be aware as to not just who's saying it, but why they're saying it.
Right.
All right. It's just crazy because I really think that a lot of things that he's doing, it doesn't matter about the people. It really just matters about how he can, get away with what he's already done. All right. I don't think he's trying to make up for his mistakes because he's done plenty of times. He has made the same mistakes, like even now, he's not even in office.
Right.
But we just have to be careful.
Well, it's also, in these social media platforms, we start to take on some of the things that people are like to say. So the word that people have been saying recently is being triggered, and some people will rejoice in saying, that person got triggered. But they got triggered because you used a term which was inflammatory or taunting. So I think the how we use our words. I think I was telling Lexington the other day, and he winced because I said, "How much does free speech actually cost?" Because it can be expensive in reference to how we spend our time speaking and how we speak.
Right.
And it can become expensive, and you can lose a lot when you say words that are unkind and untrue.
In the realm of also to probably the other side is talk about communication too, because I feel like a lot when I'm using the term rhetoric actually specifically because rhetoric I think is usually kind of more framed around a political course or someone who's debating, someone who has like a podium or something like that, versus like I don't talk too much about rhetoric. I'm just hanging out with friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think the reason why I'm using that specifically is that it's a way of like framing or shaping your words. So like if you're very, very upset and you're arguing with someone who's very, very upset and you want to communicate you're very upset, then I guess curse. I guess be mean. I guess shake your if that's your communication. But are you just trying to communicate anger? If you're not just trying to communicate anger, you're probably trying to communicate a point. Make sure that point comes across before the anger. And if you're trying to communicate a point well, make sure that person understands and you also understand them. So now there's an open communication. And eventually there's a more of a crafting that comes with communication where you need to be listening to the other person and you need to be also making sure that you're speaking in a way where your words can be received by that person and by that individual. And I feel like a lot of times people who are in political spots get like almost in trouble for this. People don't like it because it seems like they're talking in a very bland or base or safe way. But they're not just talking to one individual. They're talking to a community.
Right.
Yeah.
It needs to be received in a large way. And like, yes, it's politically correct. Yes, it's safe. But I'm saying that is usually for the disenfranchised. There's sometimes we're talking about people who aren't being communicated to or usually disenfranchised and talking in a way where it's safe for someone to hear, someone can understand, and like the feedback they're getting is like, you understand the position I'm in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't know, I just feel like that makes more sense. But a lot of times when you see it, it's like, oh, they're just talking about the same thing over and over again. That's messaging. That's how it works.
Right. You know? Well, speaking of words that we say over and over again, I think this is a good spot for us to say what?
Like and share, subscribe, hit all those buttons.
Comment. We love to hear what you're going to say. We want to speak to this gentleman named No Worries.
Yeah.
I say gentleman, but I don't know who the person is. We want to thank, can you get the applause button ready? Thank you, Mr. No Worries. We want to thank you for always tuning in and giving some good words. Always commenting. We appreciate that. And I say Mr., but Mr. or Ms., No Worries. We thank you so much for participating with us here at the Various Fields family. And if you who are watching this, we invite you to comment as well. And going a little bit further with the conversation, I am not one for using curse words. I think that demeans the conversation.
Indeed.
And now I'm going to speak to my older folks out there. If you guys and everybody wants to learn how to, you want to say strong things, watch the old 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner. There are scenes in there where they do not use curse words, but woof, they have got some strong conversations where they speak to their, the opposing person with such fine language but at the same time, it can take someone down if that's your goal, but you don't have to, be ugly in your speech.
Yeah.
I think we need to learn to be elegant again in how we speak.
I also think communication in general is underrated because I think also to use like just in the idea of discourse, but it's also like if two people are fighting, that's just bad communication.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in a very serious sense. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, most people don't want to get punched in the face, but they probably got to the point where, like, I don't know how to tell you what I want, so I need you to leave fast.
Yeah.
But that's just bad communication. They probably could have talked that out.
Yeah. And then a felony at that point.
Exactly.
So
I know there used to be a time before the internet, and I'm sure there are some people that still remember this, right? Where we didn't even have Facebook, we didn't even have MySpace, we didn't have any of this, right? And all those dialogues that we said we couldn't share with the public stayed in your notebooks underneath your bed, right? But now that we've done away with all of that, people are just saying whatever they want to say out online, right? So I guess because I'm not saying that people don't do diaries or anything like that themselves, but like I feel as if because people just feel like they need that outlet, one, for this media space, everyone wants to feel relevant and need that relevancy to stay in the conversation because that's all that it is. It's all branding now. So but if you want to be branded as this, that, and the third, right, just be mindful of what you're saying, right? Because people can reference like you as a skinhead or something like that just because of the dialogue that you have with yourself online. Right.
And I think that's actually a really good point because especially with an online nature, everything's moving so fast now that when things move fast and you're trying to get your point out or things like that, because people are typing, even people type faster than you, it becomes, as you said, inflammatory. So then you're trying to respond back and that can get frustrating. And it just reminded me of, I'm pretty sure it's a Family Guy joke, but it's like, it's hard to be angry or essentially with a musket. It would take time.
Right,
if you do this,
right.
but it's also like, I think taking time and if you're in an argument, taking time to say what you want to say clearly and not just to get a gotcha moment, not
Right.
just to get the person frustrated. I've only more or less recently discovered some people's job or some people's goal in argument is to make you feel frustrated, which is
Right.
funny because I've
Right.
never seen it that way. Our argument is like, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. But some people really get to the point where like, I want you to be more mad than I am, and that's what I call a win.
No, you see it all the time. Like, there's a lot of people that really just like, instead of having a good argument or a rebuttal back, they would always say like, "Oh, that was your statement. That was your like." How dumb were you to even think that, to utter that online, as opposed to like coming back with a proper fact in return? Like, I think like all this anonymity online, like a lot of people using personas and everything like that. I understand, like for the sake of like your own privacy and protection, absolutely hide yourself as much as you need to, right? But your persona online is still you.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want people to divide that at all and saying like, oh, I'm just a character online or anything like that, because no matter what, you're still going to face the consequences if you were to, I don't know, be elected in office. Or something.
But listen, also, while we're talking about this, I do want to talk to that person right there, and I want to say, I need you to
Now move
stop.
over.
Right. Stop right now, because you're about to respond to an email, and you've got some good gotcha words and some things you want to say, and it's to your employer, to your significant other, it's to someone very important, but you've got to get this venom out of you.
They're about to circle back so
You know,
hard.
Good flex, but
what
why?
I'm gonna suggest to you, specifically you, because you know how you are, what I want you to do is to go to sleep. Wait 24 hours. And if you feel the same way, then the next day, then have at it.
And if that doesn't work, get something to eat first.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just take your time. In other words, and you know, I want people to relax a little bit, because sometimes, like you said, oh my goodness, the reciprocity, karma, the concept of reaping and sowing, it'll come back to you.
And a lot of people are also suffering from the experience of FOMO, or the fear of missing out, right? So even in part of the dialogue, they want to say, like, do you want to be a part of it one way or the other, right? Whether they are right or wrong. So I just want to make sure that you're mindful of your words, whether or not you are part of the conversation, you feel like you're missing out, or even if you are.
And I will also say, especially if we're talking about mainly on the online thing, this is not to dismiss anyone's anger or anyone's frustration, to say it's not valid. It's also not to say, because there are sometimes where there are people that they can be communicating with, whether it's in person or online or something like that, where the person they're communicating against is completely wrong, is completely mean-spirited, not doing it in good faith, abusive in their language, things like that. And that's one of those situations where if you're safe enough, you should remove yourself from the situation, or there's no communication there if that person is not doing it in good faith. You know, so I want to be careful of to not like, because not everything can be said in a way where it's like just polite and against.
Interesting.
Or in a way, it's like there's certain like, if we talk about like Black Lives Matter or talking about rights or things like that, and like, you can do it in a right way, and you can do it, but there's certain things that need to be fought for with a certain level of fervor.
Indeed.
There's something that's a certain level of fervor, but also I don't want everybody in the moment to feel that we're saying, hey, the moment that you're feeling right now where you're enraged, that's wrong. That's the difference.
Right.
I want to be like, hey, if it's hard, I wouldn't tell anyone to argue against a Ku Klux Klan member if they're Black. I would tell them to remove themselves from the situation. And someone who is more receptive to that information, maybe start there. If they're angry, versus maybe Obama could do it. He's like, you know what I mean? There's tiers to this.
There's always a context to the situation. Yes, I was actually about to ask. Like, I don't believe anyone should really be having arguments. Like, and I can understand a heated discourse, right? You know, and like a proper poignant conversation, right? But a full on argument just to like lash out and get the ego in the way, I never really cared much for that. Like, I'm okay with having like a point when I'm like, okay, you and I are brothers. We argue all the time, right? But nevertheless,
You do?
And I always win.
This is my first time hearing this.
We'll agree to disagree. My thing is, I always want to make sure that at the very least, I'm getting my point out. Right. There are times when, unfortunately, right, because of how short-tempered I can be, right, I will walk away from the conversation, all right? One, to check myself, and also to not go any further in the conversation just so I'm not upsetting you anymore.
And that's a valid thing to do. Like, that's closer to... Sorry, just realized I hope I'm not cutting you off.
No, you're fine. You're fine. He does this all the time.
But no, I'm saying I think that's the thing. I also want to validate people's emotions, because it sometimes seems easier for us to say, like, hey, well, we're not in an argument, to calm down and step away and things like that. And I'm not saying the emotion or the desire, or even the things that you're saying are wrong. I'm saying, if you have the ability, make sure to communicate it with empathy and graciously, to understand, because that's the best way to connect with people. Right. But there are certain times where that methodology won't work. Like, it's not true. And that's just the truth. But I am saying it's more of a skill. You know what I mean? But I guess that's more. It's more of a
practice, patience,
and also, please stay away from ad hominem attacks. Don't attack people on their personalities. The person, you don't have to. You don't have to. I see. Although people have kind of suggested that Michelle Obama, when she said, "When they go low, we go high," people are, you hear people in the stratosphere saying, "Oh, we got to stay away from that. We have to match the energy." I am still a proponent of when they go low, we go high. I still believe that we should maintain a discourse that is, I use the word elegant again, and we're able to get our point across. You know, and it's interesting because, at the same time, I also want people to do what we just did. We have a podcast because we chose to. We chose to. We decided to say, listen, we have something to say, and as a family, we thought it would be a good way to say it, and so you have platforms, right? You have an opportunity, far be it from us to say, we're going to instruct you, but what we're saying is, we can all learn from one another. And if there's a platform available to you, let it be as powerful as you can possibly make it. Our particular choice is not to be angry in our tone, and because this is who we are. This is our regular discourse, our regular conversation on a normal basis. Right. We are not people to be aggressive and use rancor and that kind of thing in a normal circumstance. Right. Of course, this is not to suggest that the Fieldsmen don't get mad at times, but I believe for the most part we try to not hulk out, as it were.
It's like regulation of speech.
Regulation of speech.
I think it's like in any circumstance, like particularly for the times that I'm remembering right now from my experience, right? I know for a fact that I am always ready to come to the table for understanding, all right? But if I'm ever in an argument, right, and I realize that the other side is not giving me any leeway to express my point, I'll make it so known that I am not in the conversation any longer. And it's not for the sake of disagreement or walking away because I'm losing the argument or anything like that. If there's no way for me to say my point, if I'm being more spoken at as opposed to spoken to, right, I will gladly say I am done with this conversation because it's no longer one, right? A conversation is a discourse between two people. If I'm just being talked to and not heard, I don't want to hear anything that you have to say, right? But it's not for the sake of disrespect. I want to like we can always come back to the conversation later, right? When we are both able to equally receive one another, right? But never to a point where I am being like demeaned, or never in a moment when I am being subjugated to your opinion and your ego at the same exact time.
Keep your self-respect.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right.
I will say something reminded me of also, and this I'll put it out there as like a fun de-escalation tactic I've kind of learned in arguments, especially if someone is very angry or something like that, is you don't meet them at their level emotionally. You don't meet them at the point like if they're angry, I'm angry. But what you do is you accept the anger, not at yourself. But let's say someone comes in and is like, and they're super mad, like, I'm angry that, the refrigerator's broken or something like that, right? And you could go back, instead of like arguing with like, oh, why don't you just go to a different fridge? Why don't you just be like, oh my gosh, the refrigerator's broken. What do we do about it? And then you meet them there. So they're like, okay, my anger has been addressed. And sometimes you don't have to meet them at the same energy level, but you can be like, oh, wow, you're frustrated. That seems frustrating, and then if you can sometimes, you know, on a political debate or something like that. But if someone's like on a political message, like, everything's too expensive. I agree, everything's too expensive. The way we fix it, we may disagree with. But it's like, oh my gosh, things are too expensive. What's expensive in your life? What's taking this burden kind of thing? And then at least you're on the same page there.
Right. You know? And at the very least, if no one's ready to hear you out and you completely believe you're absolutely correct, stand on it. Work on it, move on it, right? If you want to do a change, if you want to make a change into your community or your society, right, right, and then actually, it'll be a lot better for you to speak on these changes by actually doing so and kind of like showing your resume as to what you've done to prove these changes, not just in your words but in your actions as well. So. Do that.
Well, the guys, I was just thinking, we talk about de-escalation. The guys know one of my favorite de-escalation tactics is to talk to people and then tell them the things they need to get. They need to, get control of the conversation. And oftentimes I'll say, you should get a Henway.
What's a Henway?
About 2 pounds. You see, you see how we that, you know? I don't know. I love that joke. But anyway.
That's an interesting segue.
But anyway, how much time do we have?
We got less than 4 minutes.
Nels, we haven't heard from you in a couple of episodes. I know I throw it out there. How you doing out there? Just say hello to the people.
I'm great.
Okay. Nels is so fantastic. He stays with us through all of the things that we...
I will say a great de-escalation tactic is be like Nels. Calm, cool, collected, relaxed, 24/7 all the time. I've never seen anything else once in my life.
yeah, I know. Actually, James Bond came in here one day and said, wow, this guy is very cool.
Yeah. No,
So that's that's the kind of guy we like having support what we do here. Any other things that you're going to say? We have a little bit more time. We're just about done.
I think so. I'm pretty clean right
now.
So
let's do a summation of it all. All right. So when in conversation with people, remember that your free speech doesn't mean that you can overshadow someone else's free speech. Allow them to speak and you speak as well and come to the table. You hear us talking about that a lot on various fields because we do believe in a positive discourse. We do believe in positive dialogue. We want you to be heard, but try to limit your rancor, your condescending tones, or belittling someone, and no ad hominem attacks. Any other things?
Speaking truthfully is very important, but also speaking of empathy is just as important. It's not sugarcoating, but being empathetic as you speak truth is also just as important. Make sure the words you're saying are being received.
Please be aware of your audience because not everyone's going to take the same message the same exact way, all right? And it's not so much change your message, but also be aware of how it's delivered, right? Because there are some times when you are speaking to, I don't know, let's say a 13-year-old child compared to like a 45-year-old man, right? You would deliver a message differently.
Yeah, we talk about Minecraft, we're talking to 13-year-old kid.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
And lastly, no fisticuffs. Not at all. You know, if you have to resort to using your hands to get a point across, the
Use
next
sign language.
Yeah,
okay.
So, right, with the exception of sign language. Fellas, I think we're done for the day, and I want to say I love you both deeply. And Nels, you are just a wonderful human being. I love you back, my brother, and we just thank you all for joining us here. So come back again next week for another episode of Various Fields, and we'll see you then.
Peace out.
See you later. Everybody.